Okay, according to Pasky, I am live, so I'm just going to go ahead and take his word for it, and we're going to get started. So, hello everybody, I am SuperViperT302. I am back with what I like to call the silly block of Gradius games, because, yes, I consider these part of the Gradius franchise. So this is going to be Life Force, specifically JP Life Force. And if you've ever played the NES Life Force, this is almost nothing like that. So, let's just go ahead and get started. So, a little bit of backstory on this game. So, this game was originally released in 1986 under the name Salamander, and then they actually ported it to the US under the name Life Force, and the only real changes they made were just to the background and then some added voiceovers. Well, come 1987, they decided to re-release Life Force in Japan and try to give Salamander more of an organic feel. So there's going to be a lot of retextured enemies and backgrounds, and some bosses are going to look quite a bit different, but it's still kind of the same base game, just with a few graphical differences. Another major difference between Salamander and Life Force is that Salamander kind of had an automatic power-up system, whereas Life Force, as you can see here, uses the standard Gradius power-up bar system, which is... It gives you a little bit more control over what power-ups you get to use, but it does take a little bit longer to get your the power-ups you want. So yeah, this is this first stage is pretty much the same between Salamander and Life Force because it's already an organic stage, so there's not a whole lot you can do to make it that much different. I'm choosing to play this stage with a pulse laser mainly because of the regenerating walls. Going through them with the ripple laser is a little bit more consistent than going through them with the normal laser, but I will activate the laser for the rest of the run following this stage. Another nice change between Salamander and Life Force is that this game actually gives you extra lives, whereas Salamander doesn't. And so this game is actually quite a bit more marathon-friendly than Salamander is. It's also just more entertaining in general. Alright, so that's stage one. Those regenerating walls can be somewhat difficult to get through, but we managed. And now we have our first boss. So, Salamander was the first game in the Gradius franchise to actually have original bosses on each stage. So here we have Brain Golem, who is... the arms are green in this game, they're gray in Salamander, and even though he's a brain, he's not very smart. So if you've never played Salamander or Life Force before, one major difference between these and typical Gradius games is that they actually alternate between horizontally scrolling stages and vertically scrolling stages. So every odd number stage will be a horizontally scrolling stage, and every even number stage will be a vertically scrolling stage. So this stage in the original Salamander is a asteroid belt, and in this game it's a kidney field. So all of these pink asteroids are actually kidney stones. Don't ask me. It's just kind of how the logic of this game works. I will say Konami took some creative liberties in making this game seem more organic. Seizure warning, by the way. If you suffer from epilepsy, look away. Okay, good. It wasn't there for very long. So that enemy that I just killed actually causes the screen to flash really bright colors very rapidly. And if you leave it on screen for a while, it can definitely cause some like headaches. So thankfully I was able to kill it right away. So it didn't flash the screen for very long. So one thing you're never going to see me do in this run until the final stage is activate the shield, and that's because in Salamander and Life Force, the shield is really freaking useless. In Salamander, I don't know if it applies in this game, but in Salamander, bullets can actually pass straight through the shield, which sucks. And also, I believe in both games, power-up capsules actually damage your shield. So take it for what it is, but this is the Tetran. I know it doesn't look like the Tetran, but trust me, it is the Tetran. So now we're going to be going back to horizontal scrolling, and we're going to be going into the third stage. There's only 6 stages in Salamander and Life Force, so this is one of the shorter games in this series. So this stage is the, it used to be Fire Stage, but now this is all Stomach Acid, and instead of prominences, these little eruptions are actually acid flame eruptions, I guess. I don't know, but whatever. As you can see, it's definitely different because it's blue instead of orange. There is a safe spot where you can just kind of camp out in this position at the bottom of the screen, but that's no fun. So we're just going to kind of move around and try to dodge all the prominences. If you're playing this on higher difficulties or loops, every single one of these prominences is continuous. So you actually do have to dodge them. And coming up, there are going to be some continuous prominences that I actually have to dodge. This first backwards facing one is going to be the first one right here. So I just kind of have to maneuver my way around it. And one more prominence to dodge here. And then for the rest of this, I can just camp out at the bottom of the screen because I don't need to worry about these other two prominences. And as you can see, the lasers and missiles are a very effective duo for clearing out enemies in this game, as well as especially when you're fully powered up. One nice thing about this game is that this is also the first game in the series to have instant respawns when you die, probably just because it's a two-player cooperative mode. So if I die, it's not the end of the world, but recovering in this game can also be a bit challenging. Anyway, so this is Intruder, again, blue instead of orange. Very clever change. And we're just going to kind of let him encircle us. He's trying to eat us, and he's not doing a very good job, so we'll just go ahead and take him out like that. And we're already halfway through the game. So here's stage 4. This is the liver/volcano stage. This stage isn't very different between Salamander and Life Force. Really just the enemies look slightly different. But for the most part, this stage is basically the same. Fun fact, this song that you're hearing right now is actually a revamped version of an unused song from the original Salamander. That same actually applies to the Stage 2 and Stage 5 themes. The original Salamander has a whopping 19 unused songs. This game only has 16, including 8 from the original Salamander, the 3 songs that were in Salamander that aren't in this game, and 5 new ones. So coming up here, we have a bunch of rocks that are going to fall from the screen, but there's a really easy save spot you can use for them. If you just position yourself in between the rightmost digit of your score and the H of high, you'll never get hit by these rocks. Even though the rock patterns are randomized, for some reason they never fall on that specific space. So you can just use that to your advantage and dodge all the rocks, because they can be a real pain to dodge otherwise, unless you lag the game. So now you have these little, I guess, pathogens, I don't know. But they're rocks that if you shoot them, they will split into a few smaller pieces, so I'm trying to avoid shooting them, because sometimes they can be pretty difficult to dodge when they spread out. And now for this last section, we have the 3 branching pathways, but I'm just going to have my options spread out all among them, and just hold down all the firing buttons, and I'll just clear out everything in all 3 pathways. Now this section is kind of straightforward. But coming up, we have what is, in Salamander, is the worst boss in the game, and that is Center Core. It's slightly easier in this game. They kind of toned it down by quite a bit, but I'm still going to play it a little bit safe. I'm going to use a bit of a safe strategy on this guy to try and bait him into not hitting me. So I'm going to park myself in front of this rightmost core here, and hopefully it will fire cores in a very specific fashion. Alright, that's perfect. Okay, that's good. It will only fire that many cores. So now I just have to worry about taking out all 3 of the cores here. And hopefully not dying. Okay, good. So this will be the last horizontally scrolling stage of the game. Up again, seizure warning. If you suffer from epilepsy, look away. Alright, you can look back now. There will be no more of that for the rest of the game. So we get a little bit of break here. This is going to be another asteroid belt similar to the one from Stage 2, except now it's horizontally scrolling. And it's kind of a horizontal version of Stage 2, but with a few twists at the end. And I think for the most part, this stage kind of speaks for itself. There is a glitch in Salamander that they was patched for this game. I don't think it would work on these anyways. But for some reason, you can deactivate the collision of certain objects by firing missiles in Salamander. Again, they patched that in this game. But like, for example, the asteroids in Stage 2, you can just pass right through them if you're firing missiles. Now, normally I wouldn't have used that anyways, because it's cheap. Alright, so now coming up we have the Zub Mark IIs. These guys can be pretty annoying if you don't time your shots correctly. But I was able to get a good rhythm going. And now we have a rush of enemies. This section can be pretty scary because sometimes a stray bullet will just hit you for no good reason. So you have to be really careful here. and I kind of already screwed my pattern up here, so this might be bad. You kind of just want to camp out up here, and then pray that none of those bullets hit you, and we made it through safely, and we're good. So, you remember Death Mark 2 from Gradius 3? This is what became of Death Mark 1. This is Gao, and this guy actually appears in a few other Gradius games. He's in the Boss Rush of Gradius 2, and he's an enemy in Gradius Gaiden and Gradius 5. And now we're on to the final stage. That guy can be pretty easily dealt with. I am going to activate the shield here for safety. Just even though it's not going to be that useful, there's going to be a lot of enemies firing in the next section. In this game, you can actually stack shields. As you can see, I activated the shield, but it hasn't disappeared yet. If you activate more than one shield, you can actually place shields on all 4 sides of the ship. There's not a whole lot of use to doing that, but you can kind of completely shield yourself from harm if you so desire. Right, so these crystal balls can be kind of annoying to deal with. They do fire a lot. But coming up, we have a pretty weak biomechanical brain attack system. We've got not 1, not 2, but 3 big core Mark 1s to fight. And none of them are going to be particularly difficult at all. In the original Salamander, there's a safe spot where you can just hide at the top of the screen. Apparently that's patched in this game, but it's cheap, so I wouldn't have used it anyways. Alright, so now we're heading into the final stretch of the game here. So if there's anywhere in the run where I'm going to die, it's going to be in this, final stretch here. But luckily I have plenty of lives. In the original Salamander, dying here basically dooms you to a game over because you get no extra lives in that game, but in this game you have a little bit of leeway. So I'm going to park myself at the top of the screen here just to make it so I don't have to dodge all these falling tiles. I'm going to back up a little bit here though, because sometimes those enemies can fire at you and just completely ruin your day. And now I'm going to move back to the top of the screen so I can deal with a few of these enemies that are on the sides here. And if they do fire, their bullets will just safely pass right by me. And now we have Moai heads, because they need to be in this game. But in this game, they can jump. Also, for some reason on Life Force JP, every single time you kill a Moai, it restarts Poison of Snake, which is the boss music. And I have absolutely no idea why. It's like this on the PSP port of the game and Salamander Portable as well. And this is consistent. It happens every single time. I have no idea why. And there we go. So that's all the Moai heads there. So now I just kind of have to sit patiently for the final boss of the game to show up. And this guy appears in a few other Gradius games as well. And I believe this is the only boss that didn't get a single graphical change in the game. This stage is also very similar to the original Salamander. Here is Zelos Force. And if you don't have missiles, this boss is impossible. But if you do have missiles, it's super easy. But, just like Gradius 3, the game's not over yet, because we have one final escape sequence to get through, and this time there are barriers that are going to try to block us off. Alright, no death run, sweet. That barrier section can be really tricky to get through, and I'm used to playing this game with the PSP's D-pad and not a keyboard, so I often crash when I'm trying to get through there. But yeah, no death run of Life Force. That was a pretty good run overall. I hope you enjoyed that game. So the credits in this game are relatively short, so as you can tell, very different from the NES game. It's definitely a lot more fast-paced, and I would say a lot more difficult, but if you want to try once seeing either this game or Salamander, I would prefer this game. This game is just overall better. It has slightly better music choice. The power-up system is a bit more lenient, and it's just overall better. So, with that, after the credits are done rolling here, I am going to throw it on over to the host.